Hey guys, how's it going? It's Baggins here, and today I wanted to provide you guys with a quick sort of build update guide to healing in New World. Now in the past we've done a lot of deep dives on healing, but I've been looking around on YouTube and just the internet in general for guides on New World, and I've noticed there's not really a whole lot of like updated information out there for you guys. So what I thought I would do over the next few weeks is just provide these sort of quick build guides, you know, ideally less than 15 minutes, fingers crossed. So we are going to go over our weapons, then we are going to go over skill mastery for the weapons, our stats, which equipment load, so light, medium, heavy, what perks do you want to have on the weapons, the armor, the jewelry, and then finally gems. So we're not going to be doing a deep dive here. We're not really getting into the nitty gritty, just a basic overview of how each build works. So we are going to be covering both PvE and PvP. Hopefully that's not going to make the video too complicated. But without further ado, let's get into this healing guide, shall we? So first and foremost, weapons for healing. What do you guys want to be using? From a PvE standpoint, I would recommend what I'm currently rocking right now, and that is a Void Gauntlet and a Life Staff. Both of these weapons provide a lot of healing. We have Essence Rupture to provide some healing. We have Orb of Decay to provide healing. And then, of course, Life Staff is just the healing weapon in general. So from PvE standpoint, Void Gauntlet, Life Staff, I think it's the best sort of support playset. There are some other things you can do, but for the basis of simplicity, that's what we're going to recommend here. On a PvP side of things, if you're a PvP-orientated healer, I would recommend that you go for Rapier and Life Staff. Rapier is there. It just provides a bit more of a escape and getaway with the dashes and the riposte, and then you can dodge roll to... you can use the evade to regenerate stamina. It's just very slippery and allows you to focus largely on healing. The utility and the damage buffs that we get from Void Gauntlet are sort of outpowered by just the sheer amount of escape and slipperiness that the Rapier gives you. So moving back to the Void Gauntlet and Life Staff, we're now going to cover the stat breakdown for healing, and honestly this is going to be the same for PvP as well, factoring in having a food buff as well. And when it comes to food, I think the cheapest or easiest one, at least to get here on the Barry server, is smoked rib cap with cabbage and barley soup. You do have the lava bob, and you've also got the roasted rabbit, and then there's the other one of this where you get focus and constitution rather than constitution focus. But yeah, this is the cheapest one, so this is the one that I'm popping most often, and that puts us at this nice threshold here of 200 constitution, which gives us a good amount of survivability, and then 300 plus focus, which makes sure that our heals really pop off. If you're feeling super confident, you could go for 350 focus and 150 constitution, but honestly I think the diminishing returns just makes it better that you get more bang for your buck if you put those points into constitution. So that's my recommendation there for both PvE and PvP healing. When it comes to skill mastery, I really find that this is my one-size-fits-all build for the Life Staff right now. You could look to replace Orb of Protection with Beacon. It is a bit of a toss-up as to which one you go. I do think that the Mending Protection perk, which goes alongside with the Orb, is pretty nice. We did recently just get Vicious Beacon, which increases crit chance when people are healed by Beacon. That might be worth considering going for PvP, but in general, this is what I'm going to say you should go for. From PvE and PvP, but you know, you could get a bit experimental and swap out the Orb with the Beacon. Just basically take these points here and put them over here instead. Maybe you could swap Speed of Light and get Sacred Protection instead. But yeah, this build has been working really great for me for the past like couple months now, so this is what I'd recommend for PvE and PvP on the Life Staff. When it comes to the Void Gauntlet, things do vary a little bit. So this is my PvE build, so when we're doing expeditions, invasions, etc., I like to run Oblivion for a little bit of a damage boost for me and my team. It also gives you some stamina every second, which is very nice for just duck, dodge, and diving. Orb of Decay is a really good tool for providing rend, so it actually reduces damage absorption. You can see in the tooltip there, so the enemy takes more damage. It also provides healing as well. Heals 20% of your weapon damage every second for 5 seconds. That's actually like stronger than Beacon in terms of like the burst healing that it provides there. And then you can also explode it for another extra heal on top as well. So yeah, Orb is just a really nice extra tool to add in for healing on the PvE standpoint. Finally, the last perk we're going to take with PvE Void Gauntlet is Essence Rupture. Now this is specifically just for PvE. It's pretty tricky to land and make this work in PvP. So if we're all fighting this boy, and we imagine, you know, he's like 10 levels higher and he's a spooky elite, applying the Essence Rupture just means that when we attack him, we're going to get some health back, we get some stamina back as well. It really actually adds up quite a lot to your healing. And when the Essence Rupture expires, we get a little burst of healing after that as well. So two pretty nice heals that you can get From a PvP standpoint, it's a bit harder to make the Essence Rupture work like that because it's just unlikely that everybody's going to be attacking the same target. You know, you're swapping targets pretty often, especially in wars. It's just, yeah, I don't find it to be that effective. So let's talk about the PvP standpoint. So on the PvP side of things, we're going to go ahead, respec, and we are still going to take Orb. Orb is a great tool for the extra healing, and in fact, we're going to go ahead and take Oblivion as well, but Essence Rupture, as we mentioned, it's a bit tricky to make it work in PvP, so we're just going to take the Scream instead. Rooting enemies to the ground, CC is king in PvP, and you also can get a very nice Fortify here. If you can land this on 3 enemies or more, you will get a 30% Fortify, so that's a 30% damage reduction for 10 seconds, which is pretty insane. You combine that with the perk, it's called Putrefying Scream, and it's a very, very strong ability. So yeah, in terms of the rest of Mastery, I would go ahead and still try and pick up the Void Caller passive, as it's just a little bit of extra healing. And if you can, you want to get Mending Evasion. That's a good perk. Radiant Efficiency, and sometimes a Refreshing Harvest, but this is probably less likely that you're going to be using it in PvP, because you don't really want to be holding down, you know, right mouse button and just chunking your health while your teammates are dying, and, you know, the stress of PvP in general. So yeah, that's a quick look at the Mastery side of things for the Void Gauntlet in PvP. In terms of equipment load for a healer, in both PvE and PvP, I'm just going to recommend that you go with Light Armor right now. This may change in the future. We do know that there's some upcoming buffs to Heavy Armor, but right now, Light Armor is king. It gives you a 30% increase in bonus healing. You can read it along that bottom line of the light extra there. And you also get the dodge roll, which is just a really, really good movement tool. Generally, as a healer, you just don't want to be getting hit in the first place these days. That's usually the playstyle, especially from a PvP standpoint. The dodge roll is just amazing movement, and the 30% bonus in healing really does actually make quite a significant difference now. So yeah, Light Armor is going to be the way to go. When I say Light Armor, if you are like brand new to New World or returning and you don't remember, what you want to do is make the most of this thresholds here. So we're just staying under the threshold where we would pop into a medium load, and we can do that by going with a light helmet, a medium chest, a light gloves, light legs, and light boots. So the medium chest gives us the most damage protection compared to a light chest, but we have a little bit more weight there. So yeah, if we just put a light chest on, we'd still be in the light threshold, but we'd just effectively be taking more damage. So this is one of the easiest and best ways to sort of get that damage reduction, equipment weight, like ratio. Moving on to the perk side of things, I'm going to drop the camera off here so you guys can get a full look at my armor. Now, currently we are geared up for PvE. When it comes to the life staff, I think the most important perks to have are Blessed plus one of the weapon perks. My favorite right now is Refreshing Divine Embrace, but maybe you guys want to go for Mending Protection. There was a recent change where we can show it here if I go ahead and pop on the right life staff. This one, so we look at Mending Protection here. It says increase healing power by 42% for 3 seconds, and then we have it over here, increase healing power by 24% for 3 seconds. So perks are actually stronger when you get them on the life staff. I find Refreshing Divine Embrace just to be the easiest one to slot in for my build. This life staff here comes from Mutated Dynasty Shipyard, and in my opinion, it's best in slot for what it does. Blessed plus Refreshing Move is the dream, and then a weapon perk to go on top of that. So yeah, highly recommend you get a weapon perk. I would, in my opinion, Refreshing Divine Embrace or Mending Protection. I wouldn't go with Fortifying Sacred Ground. We'll elaborate that on a future video if you guys are interested. But yeah, in terms of perks on the Void Gauntlet, again, we're looking for Blessed, and Refreshing Rupture is the other perk that I would strongly recommend you go for. It just helps with that healing uptime. You can apply Essence Rupture much more consistently. So you can see here with this ball, we apply the Essence Rupture to it, and then immediately, look at the cooldown, just gets like dropped dramatically. We pop another orb, and it's basically like ready to go after this point. So yeah, Essence Rupture just like really lowering the cooldown of it there. I think that's a great one for your healing uptime compared to the other ones. You could look to get Nullifying Oblivion for maybe a bit more of an aggressive playstyle, but that's going to be my recommendation there. So yeah, weapon recap, Blessed plus one of the perks, in my opinion, Refreshing Rupture, and Blessed plus Refreshing Divine Embrace. And then the third ideal perk would be Refreshing Move, but it's pretty tricky to get that. So maybe just Refreshing Evasion would also be pretty good on both of these as well. This is not ideal for me. This would also be refreshing if we were looking for my personal best in slot instead of Mortal Energy. Now, with PvE and PvP healing, the perks do mix up a little bit. One thing that is going to stay consistent, though, is you do want to get Fortifying Sacred Ground on one piece of armor. I think it's very important. You don't need to stack it, but having Fortifying Sacred Ground on a piece of armor, hugely, hugely important. And then the other perk that you don't have on your life staff, basically. So if you guys did opt to go for Mending Protection on your life staff, then I would recommend that you get Refreshing Divine Embrace on a piece of gear. If you went for Refreshing Divine Embrace on your life staff, like I did, then get Mending Protection on a piece of armor. Hopefully that makes sense. The other perks that you want to be looking for, basically Refreshing or Refreshing Evasion. It just lowers your cooldown, so it means you can heal more often. You can see we've got quite a bit of Refreshing Evasion on my gear here. I actually think Refreshing is kind of better these days because they did nerf it. But yeah, Refreshing is a nice one to go for. Elemental Aversion is a nice all-rounder. This does work in both PvE and PvP, but specifically from the PvE side of things, I would recommend you guys look at getting some ward gear if you're interested in doing mutated expeditions. Yeah, I think Corrupted Ward or Lost Ward or Angry Earth Ward or Ancient Ward, whatever your dungeon that you're going to be tackling, I do think that it's worth getting that on a set of gear. In particular, when it comes to Corrupted Ward, this stuff you can farm very easily from, there's a repeatable mission you can get in the Cathedral here. If you do this sort of quest chain in Shattered Mountain, they'll have you go into Tempest Heart, and they'll give you these tempestuous caches. And if you open up the boxes, you'll get this Spectral Tempestuous gear, which is very, very good. It's got like 3 perks that are great here for PvE. There's also the Sagacious armor that you can get from Tempest Heart, which has some nice perks as well. We got Elemental Aversion, Refreshing, and Fortifying Sacred Ground. Some really good pickups there. If you guys want a full deep dive on this, I'll put a link to a video at the end, just like a full healing guide where you can pick up some nice armor. I made it like a couple months ago, but it's still relevant for looking for like best in slot gear. From the PvP standpoint, we basically just go ahead and take away our Corrupted Ward and replace it with Resilient. So you can kind of think of it as Corrupted Ward or Ward perks in general are damage reduction against PvE, and then Resilient is damage reduction against PvP. So you can see here we've got Resilient, Elemental Aversion, and Fortifying Sacred Ground. So you can see it's pretty similar. This would have just been Corrupted Ward previously. Shirking Energy, I think this is a perk that is valuable in both PvE and PvP. It's usually just available on the legs. In PvP, I would say you definitely need to get it. It's just like extra stamina, which can save you if you've got a lot of people chasing you down. Again, we got Refreshing, just an all-around good one. We got Resilient. Freedom is also another perk that I think becomes more valuable in PvP and less so in PvE. So I think getting like 1 or 2 pieces of Freedom gear is something that I would recommend. And then obviously we've introduced the Rapier here since we're in PvP mode. So none of the Rapier perks are particularly that important other than Sundering Riposte, which I actually do go ahead and get on my Rapier. And then other perks, like I guess the ideal Rapier would be Keen Speed and probably Refreshing on top of Sundering Riposte. But yeah, this Refreshing Flash, not super needed, but it is there if you want it. But that's basically just a quick look at the armor there. You just take the ward that you would normally have in PvE and replace it with Resilient. I think Resilient is very, very important. One of the perks that I haven't mentioned when it comes to healing armor, and this applies to both PvP and PvE, is Shirking Fortification. Now, I don't really have this in any light armor, unfortunately. I've got this amazing heavy chest piece here, but I don't really get to use it very often. But Shirking Fortification is a really, really, really good perk. If you can find this on any armor, if you can get Resilient plus Shirking Fortification plus a weapon perk, or Resilient Refreshing Shirking Fortification, or you could get Corrupted Ward, Shirking Fortification, Refreshing, like some combination of those perks, you guys sort of get the idea. That is like the ideal best in slot, the bis de la bis. But yeah, that is armor. We'll move on to jewelry now. In both PvP and PvE, things are fairly similar here. So I think one thing that I could recommend when it comes to PvE is looking at amulets like this. So health is a baseline. You always want to have health on your amulets. Just having an extra health pool means you're less likely to die. And then the second perk that I'm going for now is Void Protection, or we also look for Flame Protection. We look at, we've got some Thrust Protection here. This is more appropriate for PvP. Lots of bows and Outpost Rush these days, lots of spears. We've got Nature Protection. So yeah, these protection perks sort of swap out for me depending on what mutation I'm going into. So I'm doing a Void mutation in Genesis, well, we're going to take the Void Protection. If I'm doing a Ice Protection, I don't actually have an Ice Amulet, but I would put a Frost Protection Amulet on, and then Fire Week would put the Fire one on. So that's what I've been doing, and it seems to work fairly well for me. But I think like a one-size-fits-all amulet would be something like this. So Health, Stamina Recovery, and Shirking Dot Cleanse. or you could just go for like health, stamina recovery, and either thrust or slash protection. I think those are pretty like common forms of damage you're going to take as a healer, either from great axes and swords, which are slashing, or arrows and spears, and musket bullets, which is thrust. The ring, ideally you want to have a hearty, sacred, refreshing ring. I've only got a hearty, sacred, leeching ring, but really the two most important are hearty and sacred. Obviously, that's like just what you should focus on. The hearty, we've talked about it in the guide video, but it gives you an extra dodge roll and a light equipment load, which is huge. And then finally, the most important perks to get on your earring are healthy toast and refreshing toast. The third perk, I've gone for refreshing here, but you could also look to get nimble for some stamina regen, or you could get focused, or you could even get the evasive for like the threat reduction if you're very PvE orientated. I do actually have an earring that's somewhat like that, and I find it's actually working like pretty well now that they've buffed it. So yeah, evasive reduced the generation of threat by 50%, and then we get the healthy toast there as well. So yeah, healthy toast, most important, followed by refreshing toast, and then the third perk, kind of down to your own personal preference. Yeah, that's a quick look at armor perks, weapon perks, and jewelry perks. Last thing we have to talk about is gems. We get a lot of questions about what gems you should use as a healer, and honestly, it's the same kind of across the board for most builds. So what I would recommend is you look at your numbers down here, your physical and elemental breakdown, and this is like coming from your armor, so you can see we're getting equal armor, like elemental and physical here, but this one's giving me more physical than elemental. My chest piece is equal. My helmet is giving me more physical than elemental. So yeah, we kind of need to make up for the lack of elemental that we're getting on a few pieces here. And that I've just gone ahead and done that by giving myself some opal in my armor. So 2.5% elemental damage absorption. We got some more opal here as well. From a PvP standpoint, I do like to run a thrust ward gem or two, because I just find there's so many bows and spears these days. So thrust damage absorption for PvP. But as a general all-round rule, I would just go for a couple of opals if you're missing a bit of elemental down here. If it's the other way around, you're skewed very elemental, the number is higher, then go for onyx gems. And a nice in-between is to take a few diamonds, because those give you physical and elemental damage absorption. Or you can do it the other way around, where it's elemental and then a little bit of physical as well. So yeah, some combination of malachite, which is spectral ward IV, or diamonds, which is wilderness ward IV, or opal, which is the elemental, and then obviously there's the onyx as well, which I don't think, yeah, we got some onyx here as well, 2.5% physical damage absorption. Last thing to cover, gems and the weapons, and it's basically just diamonds all around. Diamonds is the only gem that increases your outgoing healing currently. No other gem. You might have heard from some people that you can use like an intellect conversion gem and make your life staff do fire damage. You get some fire heals. That's just all crazy. Yeah, diamond in the life staff, diamond in the void gauntlet, all for healing. And then if you are using a rapier, it really doesn't matter that much, but you can go for a nature conversion gem, and the nature damage scales off of your focus. But again, you're really not using the rapier for damage. It's just for escape, so it honestly doesn't really matter. But if you want to like have the answer there, then an amber gem, tier 2, tier 4, like it's all, I don't know, the scaling, I'm still not entirely sure how it works, but I've got a tier 4 right now. Okay, so that covers it for my quick build healing guide. I know we didn't really go into too much depth there, but I really did want to try and keep this video short, because I wanted to do a whole series of these on like tanking, bruiser, mages, range DPS and stuff. So if you guys want to see a link to a playlist to those videos, I'll put a link in the description down below. If you guys do enjoy these sort of videos, as always, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to see more. If there's anything in particular you would like to know about healing that we didn't cover in this video, leave a comment down below, or check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/BagginsTV. Again, we'll have links to that in the description down below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, I'll see you all in the next one.